LeadersConnect is a fantastic piece of breakfast business here for the catering. Just in case everyone doesn't know, we actually have several divisions of catering at Zingerman's. We have Zingerman's Catering and Events, which is run through the deli. And then we have the Roadhouse on the road catering, which is here at the Roadhouse. So we are always looking for opportunities to increase our business. So this is the one time of day that we don't offer any room minimums, wink, wink. But it's a great space. We have a lot of rooms that are available to use. Alex was lucky enough to get to speak last month at LeadersConnect about sustainability in farming. So it's very crucial and very mission oriented for us, and we're glad to be a part of it. We love working with Rob and Diane.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you.
And Kate, you guys got any openings for like the big seasons coming up, the graduations? And
absolutely. We're always hiring bussers, event workers, caterers. So if you know people who are interested in working.
Okay, and if some dates to book yet at the
absolutely
dinner? Okay, all right.
The only date that's closed is June 25th right now.
All right, great. So, and you're bringing the Roadhouse food then?
Roadhouse food. Oh, and okay. Just so you know, as you can tell, I can project really well and rarely need a microphone. What I was going to add is that we're actually not just fried chicken, mac and cheese, and smoked meat, while those things are all incredible. We have a James Beard Award-winning chef in Mr. Alex Young, and we have some very, very talented sous chefs. We have done a 360-person Indian wedding with full Indian food. We have done tapas, we have done ceviche, we have done a Tuscan style. You might see that once a month we do our special dinners where we kind of change it up and work with different people. We did a Cajun dinner just this past Tuesday. So we are more than just what you think we are. We are capable of just about anything. We've also done sushi.
And we're also talking about maybe doing a drink event here sometime. So a lot of people complain they can't get to these events anymore, so we're thinking of having like a cocktail hour, happy hour here
out on the patio,
maybe sometime in the summer. So that would be a lot of fun. So thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
And Jackie, you want to say a little bit about Bank of Ann Arbor, which is another one of our sponsors, and you got some things coming up, really exciting stuff. Yeah. Sonic Lunch, right? Absolutely. Great, excellent.
Thanks, Rob. Bank of Ann Arbor is happy to support LeadersConnect, and we've got our Sonic Lunch schedule published. I think last month was when the schedule was just getting announced, but now we've got the printed schedule. We kick off Thursday, June 2nd with our first concert. We're really excited. I don't know if you guys have been following Laith Alsetti. Is doing so well on The Voice. He's made it to the finale, and so far we're being told that he is able to come Thursday, June 9th to perform at Sonic Lunch. He's been one performer we've had in every Sonic Lunch schedule since we started, so it's been so much fun to follow along, and hopefully we'll all be there to cheer him on June 9th. But lots of Sonic Lunch schedules around, and I've got some buttons, and that's what we're excited about.
Great. We're going to highlight a couple other things that are going on this summer too. So, but I'd like to introduce Diane.
Debbie.
I'm sorry, Debbie. I keep saying Debbie, who's with Raymond, and maybe you could tell us about your involvement here and what you guys are doing. And
sure.
Good.
Well, we're very proud to be a sponsor of this event. This is an awesome event, and it's really a great way to connect with other people in the community. Raymond, we offer. We have a banner up here, full service accounting, financial services, corporate investigative services. And one of the newer things that we're doing is we're getting into the whole cyber security world. So if anybody would like a review of their system, we have experts in that area that can take a look and can help with that. And we'd love to help out and consult. So thank you.
We work in a similar area because you work in cybersecurity, and I work with people's insecurity.
There you go.
That's out really well, yes. So we have a couple other things going on. I want to highlight, maybe Marvin and Kristen can come up, and you guys can talk a little bit about what's going on. And Michigan Theater, come on up too. Come on up. So some things that are going on at the university and some things that are going on in the community for fun this summer. So. This is part of LeadersConnect too. We're trying to connect leaders to the community, tell people what's going on, give an idea, if all of you can spread the word. So Kristen and I met a couple of years ago at outside at Carytown, I think, right? And maybe you can talk about what you're doing at the university and opportunities that may be for people to connect.
Good morning, everybody. I brought what is our first ever University Report on Student Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and I apologize I didn't bring enough. If you're interested, I can certainly provide you with print copies. We also have digital copies online. So I work with the University Global Communications Office and try to tell the story of student innovation and entrepreneurship across campus. It's just been exploding in recent years, and there's just so many great stories to tell. And these are teams and students who want to connect with community too, so Ann Arbor Spark and other programs across the community. So we have about 80 plus student ventures this year, and they're all multidisciplinary from almost every school and college, and you'll see about 40 or so highlighted in the magazine. We're calling it Made at Michigan. You might see it on social media. We're highlighting teams all throughout the summer. And we're also looking to place these students in internships at startups and places around the community. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. So thanks.
I certainly would be interested, so let me know. When you say these people individually to come in, you mean the students who are innovators, so they're looking for startup activities or any kind of activities?
Any kind of activities.
Yeah.
And these students, we provide external support, so
Okay.
we give co-financing so that we might provide a shared cost so that they can, you don't have a lot of money as a startup to fund
I've got a
it.
great idea
So-
for you. Have you thought about using Wayne Baker's Give and Get app for this? This is a perfect opportunity to put out there what you're giving, which is internships and bright students, and they could get those from you, right? So maybe you could be a pilot for Wayne's program. That would
Sounds
that would be great. That's kind of what it's all about,
Yeah.
right? So it's just that kind of opportunity. And are you going to have some fun this summer with some of these activities, that bringing your kids to Summerfest or
I hope so.
Cinetopia? I don't know Cinetopia. Got any kids films?
For 4 and 2-year-olds.
Bambi. Oh, that's
Bambi.
yeah.
Sounds good.
That's even tough for adults. I don't know about kids. So, could you talk a little bit, Ruth, about what you guys go with Michigan Theater, one of our favorite spots? So maybe you could talk about Cinetopia.
The Michigan Theater, about 5 years ago, started a film festival thinking we just do it in Ann Arbor. We're not the Ann Arbor Film Festival. We are Cinetopia. You have flyers. We also have guides. Are just off the press yesterday. We have now grown to the point that we are in 3 cities. We are Ann Arbor, Detroit, and Dearborn. We have a new partner this year, the Henry Ford Museum, because they took their IMAX and turned it into a giant screen experience. So basically, Cinetopia, we at the Michigan Theater send people out to film festivals all over the world. We screen stuff on our laptops. We went through 450-something movies to narrow it down to 54 of what we thought were the best films from film festivals this year. We brought them here. In addition to which we bring in filmmakers. So we do have Bambi because we're showing a documentary about the artist Tyrus Wong, who actually was a Chinese immigrant, came to the U.S. and actually managed to get into the Walt Disney Studios as an amazing artist, and he's responsible for the look of Bambi. So he will be, well, he won't be here. The film will be here. The director of the film will be in Detroit, but in Ann Arbor we have film critic Leonard Maltin coming, who's going to talk about the Disney Studios and then also screen Bambi, which really is hard to get. Believe it or not, you have it on DVD. You can't show it in the theaters. Disney gave us special dispensation to show it. We've also got some other amazing films that you'll see here on our website, cinetopiafestival.org. Tickets are on sale, passes are on sale, which are the way to go because you can see as many movies as you want. We have a lot of fun events happening, including the same day as Sonic Lunch on June 9th. That night, come down to Maynard Street at Maynard and Liberty. We'll be doing Michael Jackson videos, sing-along, dance-along. And you wonder, say, why is Michael Jackson involved in movies? The people who directed his music videos were people like David Fincher, John Hughes, John Hughes, Francis Ford Coppola. There's an amazing array of directors who directed his music videos, and it's also just a really fun time. So check it out. We have a lot of fun stuff. It's June 3rd through the 12th. The Ann Arbor portion really starts around the 8th. We're in Detroit the first weekend. We're in Dearborn the whole time. So come check out some really great movies.
Bruce, did I put you on the spot?
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you like to give away 2 passes?
I would be happy
All
to
right,
give away
so
2 passes.
if people could pass up cards,
Yes, business cards.
if you don't have your business cards, you're going to be out of luck here. We don't want any false cards written on index cards.
Exactly.
So we'll do that, and we'll
Yeah,
have
at
you
the
draw
end
in
of
a few
yeah.
minutes. I'll let the youngest person in the audience draw. Okay. I think we're going to have a contest to see who. I think we have a high school student here.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody brought their babies, elementary school, whatever. So let's see. Thank you very much. Great. And give her a hand. And Marvin, you're going to be talking about something you're involved in this summer.
Yes. I think most of you already are supporters and know about the Ann Arbor Summer Festival, but I brought some of our handy one-page schedules. They're up here on the table, they're outside on the table. The Summer Festival has a wonderful lineup. It has the top of the park, free events for which you're supposed to put at least $5 in the jar. And then we have a very good lineup at the Power Center and other venues. In addition, so the festival goes from June 10th to July 3rd, and then at the end of August, we are going to have a one-man circus at Burns Park, which we'll put up a tent and.
Is this the one you're doing by yourself?
That was a surprise.
Oh.
You know, you really need to not give everything away.
High pole swaying back.
Yes, but go to the website, download the app. There are videos related to most of the events and activities, and the one-man circus is quite remarkable. I mean, I worry a little bit about, he does not work with a net, so it'll be quite interesting. But I hope many of you will be there. There is still, if you go to the website, there are no tent parties left. We're totally filled up. The schedule is filled up, but there are some opportunities in the Grove, and there may be some sponsorship opportunities remaining. So please check out the website, and hope to see many of you at the festival.
Thanks, Marvin. The lights are getting to me this morning. I just happen to have a Bank of Ann Arbor pair of sunglasses for Sonic Lunch, so I hope you enjoy it. Can I get to the, yeah, flash Twitter opportunities, Instagram, whatever. We can get all of us up. How many pairs do you have? You got some for Wayne?
I handed them out to some
Oh,
of
well,
my
Wayne definitely.
Oh,
He's got
okay.
glasses envy. He really he
I'll
wants
look, yeah.
that. We'll get that. So I also wanted to take the opportunity to, and by the way, we do encourage send out tweets, Facebook posts, whatever, keep the event in front of people. But we have a number of people who have either presented here before or will be presenting. So I wanted to point some of those folks out because in a way, LeadersConnect is an event where a lot of people who have worked with me over the years have come together. I've had people in groups or I've consulted. So a lot of the folks in the room are friends. So I can point out some of the people who have presented before. Damon, say hi. And Damon, you want to just say what your company is? Because he's doing some really great things with working with vets and with people who are just out of shape at his fitness studio. So.
With A2 Fitness Professionals, we focus on a holistic health and wellness. We also work with the NFL and the VA with post-concussion treatment for veterans.
That's how I got through you. NFL is where we met.
Of course, yeah. You were a star once upon a time.
Yeah, once upon a time.
Long ago.
In another galaxy, as they say.
But that's another story. And I'm also with the Ann magazine. Myra was not able to be here today, so I'm dual-hatted today.
So he's a writer and a fitness expert.
Health and wellness columnist for the
rehab
magazine.
expert. So man, he's got many talents. And actually, in the same row, Neil, you want to say hi? Neil is just raise your hand. Neil Clinthorne is one of the pioneers in medical device development. He started the Zoran company. He was with the university for many years and has now got some new ventures. And we're going to do a special event in September on the medical device industry. So we're going to have several of the people who are part of that industry, which is here, but is not really that well known and not that well coordinated among each other. So like we did last month with the food industry, we're going to do it with the medical device industry. And then later we're going to do it with the arts. And we have Professor Dworkin, who's the Dean of the Performing Arts School at the university, and he's going to be the speaker. So we got lots of folks. We got, say hi, Dick Beeden, who's presented here before. And Dick is going to be presenting too next year on his, your struggle with illness, but then his amazing recovery from it, what he's learned from that. So he's going to be talking about that. And you're doing some writing about that. Is that what I heard?
Actually, I gave that up. I
gave up the writing.
I'm too type-based. I'm going to speak now.
Oh, you're going to speak? Okay,
Yes.
all right. Well,
Give me a microphone, it just comes out.
all right, well, we'll do that. And Right next to them, we have another speaker, Larry. You want to just say hi? Larry Freed, who's one of our well-known entrepreneurs in town and an author, and is thinking of doing some cool things, but he's going to wait till fall and it gets cold, so you can enjoy the Michigan summer. Francis, another entrepreneur, medical device guy in the back. I want to introduce Scott Trosen. Scott and I are working together on a project here in town on onboarding. And Scott has got his own consulting company, Michigan HR Consultants, correct? And Scott and I have been collaborating, and so we're going to try to put on something also about onboarding and how to get people started well, and that's going to be in the fall. A number of people here are part of LeadersConnect groups. If you've participated in those, could you raise your hands? And several people here are either currently in groups or are going to have been in groups in the past. And we're launching more of those groups in the fall. So we're going to be presenting in August about some of the things that are coming up about that. And I'm actually training some new people to run these groups. So Marvin is one. I don't have to train Marvin, he's done it for years, but I'm going to bring in some new people into the LeadersConnect community to run groups, because I've had to kind of get my capacity on how many I can run myself. So that'll be pretty exciting. There's many other people here who have done great things. Deb Christine has done a great business with B2B CFO, right? So for those companies that can't afford full-time CFO, but need CFO quality services, how am I doing so far? Doing good? Need CFO quality services. Deb will come in for once a week, once a month, whatever it is, and she's helping me too with understanding not only how to do my business in the books, but also what the books tell me about what I should be doing in my business. So great service. So I don't know if there's lots of other people, some folks in the back. Trish, where's Trish back there? I want to say hi, Trish. And Trish has a nonprofit, right?
I do. My Life, Our Journey Foundation. So we serve southeastern Michigan to aid with funeral and burial costs for those who cannot afford it, with a core focus on children and veterans.
Okay, I want to say the name on the tape. So could you say the name of the company again?
My Life, Our Journey Foundation.
My Life, Our Journey Foundation.
That is correct.
And it helps people with burial costs.
Yes,
correct?
yes.
Okay. So Trish, maybe you can give Deb, be sure we've got your website on our email. We'll send it out with the Dr. Rob column, and be sure that if people want to pay a little bit, because you're not getting paid right now. You're not having paid for the event, but we ask that maybe you contribute to a nonprofit. And this is one we want to highlight Trish. So
absolutely.
Great work. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's give her a hand. Diane, did I get everything I was supposed to get? I'm not missing anything? Okay, good. I got my list here. So I'm going to bring up Wayne Baker at this point. And Wayne has been here before and has talked about some of his work. He's been doing great work about reciprocity. He's also a real community activist. He's done some studies in the Arab community. He's a professor at the University of Michigan. He's not the new dean, but he is a great professor. They just announced the new dean yesterday, Scott DeRue, is that how you say DeRue? So 40s, early 40s guy, so very excited. By the way, before they get up, the cards coming up. Dane, can you and your son pick up those cards from people, and you got to pass them? Oh.
You were going to mention Ari.
Oh yes, thank you. We're going to do the last event before the summer starts in 2 weeks. And that's because that's the date we could get Ari Weinsweg, one of the co-founders of Zingerman's, which you all know as Ari, right? And he's got a new book out, and the book is on generosity. And it's like the fourth in his series. So he's going to be here. We're probably going to be out on the porch and have a grand event to celebrate Ari's new book. And he's going to be talking about his recent work on generosity. So that should be very exciting. Ari's been a great promoter of LeadersConnect. He's presented almost every year on it. So we're really excited he's got this new book out. And he's in Europe now, but he's going to be back, and we'll present. We'll hopefully have some of that. Maybe we'll get, have some of the sampling of that food out there. So, we get a little bit of that Cajun or whatever. All right.
What's the date?
The date is June 3rd. June 3rd. Friday, June 3rd. It's 2 weeks from today. Wayne, you want to come on up? And let's hear it for Wayne Baker.
Thank you, Rob, and good morning, everyone. Delighted to see you all. Some people I know, some new faces. It's always wonderful to have an opportunity to speak here. And also, I'm just amazed at all the announcements. One of the wonderful things about Ann Arbor is that it's such a rich community in terms of all the resources and opportunities that we have. And I'm always amazed at that when I hear, you know, all the astounding things that are going on in the community, at the university, and so forth. So Rob was one of our early beta test groups for the app I'm going to talk to you about this morning. We call it the Give and Get app. I was writing the book about generosity. This is something about generosity as well. And we did it with Rob teaches a class on managing interpersonal relationships. It's in the engineering school. And so we had about 60 or 70 students, one of several pilot groups that we used in order to refine, develop, and improve the app that I'll be telling you about this morning. So we don't. Where's Kate? Oh, there's Kate. Hi, Kate. I was looking for Kate because Kate is my remote control for the slides here. We don't have a remote, so if you see that I thank you, Kate.
You're welcome. Did I get a finger gun?
So before my mouth was moving but no sound. Was that what happened? Just a little bit. Okay. All right. So Kate's going to be running the slides for us. So, Kate.
Our agenda is set.
Yeah, great. All right, thank you. So why build a giver culture? You're probably asking, what is that? I'm going to talk to you about what's the problem that the app is intended to solve. All right, so that will make sense to you as we move forward with this. And then I'm going to talk about two ways in which we solve these problems. One is with the Reciprocity Ring, something that my wife and I created over 15 years ago, and I'll tell you about that. And then we were always asked, can you use technology to recreate and extend the operation and the principles of the Reciprocity Ring? And we always wanted to do that, never thought the technology was at the level to actually do it. But now it is, and that's what the app is about. So I'm going to describe that to you. We have a little demo of it that we'll show you. And how's the sound doing back there? Am I coming across okay? I hear an echo myself. It's good? All right, well, thank you. And then I'll talk about some of the other ways that it's used, and I'm showing you some very concrete results that we've received from some of the early clients that are using the app. All right, so I have some questions for you. I always think of this group as Rob Pasick's brain trust. All right, so I'd like to tap into the knowledge and experience you have. So I'd like you to reflect on these questions, and if you would, to provide feedback to me. Either you can send me an email, or we can have a conversation, or whatever. But on these questions, so what would you see as a use for the app once you learn more about it, what it is? How could you use it at work? What would be some of the high-value use cases? Because I think we're still searching for what's the right place where this will create the most value. And then we're always interested in more pilot groups. We have summer running now, so perhaps you would like to bring it back to your organization and participate in one of those pilots with us. It's a learning experience, so the app works quite well and it produces the intended result, but we're always changing and improving it. We're really in that fast improvement stage now, and perhaps you'd like to be a part of that journey with us and get early access to it. All right, so here's a common organizational chart. Right? Large organizations like our university, like many companies, are divided into silos. Right? It could be different departments, different locations, different floors in an office building, different countries. Barriers to giving and getting resources across these various groups. So that's one of the problems that the app helps to solve. And at the end, I'm going to come back to this and show you a demonstration of that, of some very concrete results where we're helping a company that has this problem on a global scale, and the app is helping to solve that problem. So do you know the book Give and Take? Yeah, it's wonderful. Adam Grant, one of our wonderful graduates, illustrious graduate here from the University of Michigan. And so I knew Adam when he was a student here getting his PhD. And I taught him how to use the Reciprocity Ring, and he talks about it in his book as one of the mechanisms that a group can use in order to increase this idea of giving and getting help from one another, or create what he would call a giver culture. Now there's two sides to a giver culture. There's giving and receiving, and that's going to be an important theme that I'll talk about, and both have to be done. So as Adam talks about in this book, there are a lot of benefits that come from building a culture in which people freely give help and freely ask for the help that they need. But the real question is, how do you link these two together? And that's where the app comes in and the Reciprocity Ring. How do you produce results like that? What are the tools for action that you can actually use? Right, so here's a little 2x2. Academics always like to have 2x2s. Put those up. And in the top right corner is the high productivity cell, where people are very innovative, people create value, and they do so by very generously helping other people, but also voicing their requests, making requests of what they need. That's how they get the flow of ideas, opportunities, and so forth. So there are other cells that are very quite common. So in the bottom left, there are isolates, people who neither give help nor ask for help. Adam talks about takers, that's the bottom right. And one of the problems, how do you get takers to give? And then in the upper left, you've got the givers that have a problem of being too generous. Very well regarded, very generous in the help that they would give, but they don't get the flow of resources back to them. And what we've learned through a lot of research is because they never voice their request. They never ask, so they never get anything back. So it's the opposite problem. How do you get takers to give, and how do you get givers to take? That is, to make requests and to receive resources. Okay. So giving and receiving is a cycle. There's no giving without receiving, and there's no receiving without giving, and nothing really happens until a request is made. 70 to 90% of all help given was started by an explicit request, an ask for help. So the request is really the key to the whole cycle of giving and receiving. Here's one of my favorite examples. It's a kidney chain. And I like this one because it was started by Matt Jones from Pasick, Michigan. So Matt is pictured here at the beginning of the change, and he decided that he was going to change someone's life. And he did so by donating one of his kidneys to a stranger. Now, Ron, or the person that he gave her kidney to, was Barbara, who lived in Phoenix, and she was dying from kidney disease, and her life was saved. Now, her husband, Ron, would have donated one of his kidneys, but they didn't have compatible blood types. But he was so grateful that he paid forward one of his kidneys to a stranger named Angela, whose mother, Lori, was so grateful that she paid forward one of her kidneys to another stranger, and so forth. And these chains have become very large, very long, where gratitude for help received motivates paying it forward. So that's one reason why we help other people. We help others because we're grateful for all the help that we've received ourselves. Well, there's another side to this, and it has to do with reputation. We also help, and this is especially true for takers, we do so when our reputation is at stake. So here's an example of a barn raising. Now, a lot of the whole community has turned out to help that person build that barn, but that owner of that barn has probably helped other people in the past. And if he hadn't done so, it would be less likely that the community would have turned out to help that person build the barn. So the two reasons that people help are gratitude for help received and also for reputation. Because it is true that we are more likely to help somebody who's generous than to help somebody who's stingy. And those are the two reasons why help is actually given. Well, on the other side of this, what motivates asking for help? It's interesting, most of the research that's been done is on the giving side, much less on the asking or requesting side. Remember, most help given is in response to an explicit request. So let me just ask you, you can call out. So when do you ask for help? When you're desperate, okay. When you're desperate, you ask for help, right? When you have a real strong need, right? That's when you ask for help. What gets in the way? Pride. I know, pride gets in the way. You know, we have a very strong value of self-reliance and independence, and we should just do it ourselves. And in some work cultures, that's really reinforced, where asking for help is considered a sign of weakness or ignorance. Sometimes asking for help, people fear that they're going to be perceived as being weak and ignorant. But the research shows that people who ask for help are actually perceived to be strong. People who are smart ask for the help that they need, get that help, and are better performers as a result. So what else gets in the way of asking for help?
Fear of no. Fear of no.
Oh, fear of no. A fear that you won't get a response, that people won't help you. So there's some great studies out there that have shown that we routinely underestimate other people's willingness and ability to help. And what we have found by using the Reciprocity Ring for the past 15 years with over 35,000 people is that giving is rarely the problem. Getting people to ask for what they need, that's the real challenge. That's the real problem. So it's important to know that is that most people will respond if asked. But most people are not asked for all the reasons that we're talking about. All right, so here's the challenge. How do you get takers to give? And how do you get givers to take? And how do you get those in cell C there, the isolates, to do both? Right? And that's what the Reciprocity Ring, the app, actually create. And so we've done this. So Adam and I have done some studies where we've surveyed people's values, and we can rank them on a continuum. They have giver values, very altruistic, to taker values, very selfish. And in the Reciprocity Ring, even takers are very generous. Almost as generous as the givers. The reason it has to do with their reputation. When the givers are giving for other reasons, in the Reciprocity Ring in the app, takers give because of reputation. But the behavior is the same. People are freely giving to other people. All right, so I'm going to talk about two of these, a little bit more about the background of the Reciprocity Ring. I know a few of you are familiar with it. I'm going to describe it in more detail, and then I'll show you a quick demo of the app. All right, so here's a picture of the Reciprocity Ring, one that I ran at our Center for Positive Organizations over at the Ross School of Business. And we see many of our students there who had participated, and that's the ring as sort of at the end of the process. You can think about it in this way. It's a structured, guided process of asking for and giving help. If you were to participate in one, you would be required to make a request for something that you need, but you spend most of your time helping other people, and they'd be doing the same for you. So here are some of the requests that people have made. So my request is to see a Bengal tiger in the wild. I was adopted at birth and I'm looking for my biological parents' last name. So if those requests were made here today, you probably think that those are pretty difficult requests to fulfill, right? Well, the first one was made by a banker from New Delhi, India, who was in one of our executive education programs over at the Ross School. And I was running the ring, and this is the request that he made. Now, he was a banker by profession, but his real passion was nature. And this is what he always wanted. But when I heard that request, I figured he's getting no help whatsoever. But he got more help that day than anyone else. Somebody who led safaris, somebody who owned a game preserve. And because of a contact that was made in the Reciprocity Ring, that banker was in the right place at the right time to see a Bengal tiger in the wild. All right, second one sounds difficult as well. That request was made in a Reciprocity Ring activity, and it turned out that somebody else in the room knew how to do it because they had figured it out for themselves. It was a combination of DNA genealogy and using the Freedom of Information Act to get information. And that person sat down and coached the person through the process, and he discovered his biological parents' last name. Now you notice there were two kinds of help given in these examples. In the second one, the resource was in the ring itself. Somebody participating had the resource and could share it. But in the first one, you had to make a referral and had to tap the person's external network and to connect the two people. And those are the two ways that you can help. People often stop saying, I don't know how to help, so I stop. Rather, you have a good network. I may not know how to do something, but I might know someone who does, and I can make a referral. Those are the two ways that you can help. Here's one that was made in a business context in a big pharmaceutical firm out in New Jersey. Asked me to come out and run the Reciprocity Ring. I'm about to pay an outside vendor $50,000 to synthesize a strain of the PCS alkaloid. No idea what he was talking about. I looked it up and I discovered that alkaloids come from plants and can be used to make drugs. Well, and so he's looking to save some money here. Somebody else in the group that day said, I had no idea you had that need, because this is the first time he voiced the request. No idea that you had that need. I could slot you in next week in my lab and do it for free. You'll save $50,000 and our company will save $50,000. So I went through some of the requests that had made that day, and there's all sorts of things, like help with molecular modeling, commitment at project team meetings for more open discussion interactions, annotation of gene synthesis, some things I understand, some things I don't. But a lot of very technical requests were made in the Reciprocity Ring. All of them were fulfilled. All of these problems were solved once you got people to ask for what they needed in a context where people were motivated to help. Here's another example, very different one. This was a request made by Avinash Raj, who's pictured on the right. He's a young entrepreneur in Toronto, and he has a business with a social and business mission of increasing the wealth and recognition of artisans in India by introducing their products to the high-end retail market in North America. And as his holiday line was coming up, he made a request for retail and media contacts. Well, somebody said, I know the product and innovation manager at Holt Renfrew. Holt is the high-end retailer in Canada. An introduction was made. Avinash presented his products, and they met every one of Holt's criteria. 100% handmade, a traditional product with a story behind it, fair trade, and so forth. All right, a couple other examples. This was from an engineering firm, just to show you the breadth and the depth of the kinds of problems that are solved in the Reciprocity Ring, and then by extension in the app. So references for firms with 3-day opportunities, modeling capability to be used for a multi-level rental car facility, a source for high-quality online technical training relevant to our business, looking for a drainage resource and company. All sorts of technical problems are solved when people make requests and people are motivated to help. And they help either by providing the resource themselves or tapping their network. All right, so in summary here, the 35,000 people have participated in the Reciprocity Ring. It's been done in many languages all around the world. A lot of companies use it, universities and so forth. I gave you one example of dollar savings, and we've asked people to estimate the dollar value of the benefit. And in a group of 24, each making only one request, we typically see dollar value provided by the users themselves, $150,000, but we've seen numbers that are much higher than that. We quantified the benefit of it. And sometimes people say, we saved a lot of time, and the average for a group of 24 is 1,600 hours of time saved. We routinely see numbers that are much higher than that. It also creates new connections, I'm going to show you an example of that, and elevates positive emotions and generosity. So here's an example of increasing connections. This is a study that we did at PricewaterhouseCoopers. On the left was the amount of helping that was taking place prior to the Reciprocity Ring. A very sparse network where people are not asking for help or giving help. And then after participating, that's the volume and density of help that is taking place afterwards, where most people are giving and getting help. In fact, everyone's connected one way or the other. And if you can see the arrows, you notice that some of those arrows go in one way. So this creates what we call, in academic terms, generalized reciprocity. So direct reciprocity is like, I help Marvin, Marvin helps me, that's fine. But rather, I help Marvin, Marvin pays it forward and helps Fritz, who pays it forward and helps someone else. That more indirect form, that's what we call generalized reciprocity, or paying it forward. That's what's actually created in the Reciprocity Ring, and that's why it's so powerful. And Adam and I have done some studies where we've actually mapped people's emotions before and after, used some standard ways of doing that, started measuring people's positive and negative emotions prior to participating in the Reciprocity Ring, and then measuring them afterwards and doing a lot of statistical analysis. And it shows very conclusively that participating in this act of giving and getting help elevates positive emotions or energy and decreases negative emotions. Okay, so let's get on to the app. You have an idea how the Reciprocity Ring works and some of the results. So the app it's a group level app. So it's kind of different in that way. It's not that you download it and it's just for you or use, but rather a whole group has to be a part of it. It's a group level activity. And we populate a group, we sometimes call them rings, and people go through a process of making requests and giving offers of help to other people who have made requests. One of the nice things about the app is that it's all archived, it's all there, it's all very visible, and you can provide a lot of feedback to people who are actually using it. I'll show you some of the feedback that we provide in a moment. There's also ways of expressing gratitude and appreciation. There's a lot of social psychology, and a lot of our experience over the last 15 years is baked into the code for the app. Okay, that gives you a sense of the operation of it, how it actually works. That's already a little outdated because of all the changes that we've been making as we go along, but it still basically looks like that. And I want to return to this problem, the problem of silos, which is a ubiquitous problem in every organization, and how the app can help to solve that. Okay. All right, so we had a leader of a large tech company whose name you would recognize approach us, actually had read Adam's book and heard about the Reciprocity Ring, and called us last fall and said, I have offices in 6 countries around the world. Each office is doing well, but they're not connected to each other. And I want them to start developing a giver culture to give and get help across centers. Because there might be a problem that somebody in India has that was already solved in the Philippines. But we need a way to connect them. They said they've got all the social media tools that you know about, but they're not using them for this purpose. Do you have a tool that's designed explicitly to create this effect? And so we said, well, as a matter of fact, we are in the process of we were doing wireframes at the time, and I said, well, if you could wait until after the first of the year, you could be one of our first groups. And so they're using it now it's been about 6 weeks or so, and that's what the manager network looks like as of about 3 or 4 days ago. So of course I took all the names off. Every one of those lines is a response to a request, and 95 of the requests are technical requests. And if you can see that, I've colored the different, there's about 45 people in this group across 6 different countries. And you can see the different colors represent the different countries. And you can see that all the colors are all mixed together here. So there's most of the giving and getting is taking place from country to country rather than within the country, just as the leader was hoping for it. You see the top left, there's some people who haven't participated yet. That's always the case in an online community. That list has been shrinking over time as more and more people are getting involved. But this is evidence that they're overcoming the silo problem that they have on a global scale. Right? And I can take the same network and say, let's just have a dot be a country, and then look at the amount of giving and getting help across countries. So we went from about 45 individuals. I collapsed them into their offices here. So each color is a different country, a different office, and the thickness of the line is the volume of traffic, the volume of giving and getting help that is taking place. And you can see that even though all the managers are not involved, all the countries are connected, just as the person was hoping would occur. And we also provide feedback in terms of a client dashboard. And so this is a generic one. It would be customized. But for example, for this particular client, we're able to say, okay, how engaged are each of your business units across the 6 countries? We can track the number of offers and requests over time, the bottom right there. Provide a network diagram. You've seen that, which is a very visual way of understanding the amount of connectivity that is taking place. And then we're developing some indices that will be metrics to represent it. One that they're interested in is that they wanted more interaction between centers than within centers. They said they wanted about 50% of the helping to be between centers. It's actually 80% is between centers. So they're exceeding the quantitative goal that they have for themselves. Okay, so here's a couple of the additional problems that the app is intended to solve. So one is organizational silos. We've talked about that. We know that from Gallup surveys that most people in the workplace are disengaged. Very few people are truly engaged at work. Zingerman's is a outlier in that regard, where I'd say everyone is engaged here. So the problem there is a general one: is how do you elevate giving and getting help in the company itself? Right? So that's general engagement, disengagement problem. Distributed teams. How do you overcome the barriers of time and distance? The app is a way of solving that. Or onboarding new employees. So we have a whole group you have cohorts of new employees coming in, and you want the onboarding process to include making connections to the employees who are already there. So what we're exploring now is having, say, 50% of the people in the app be new employees, 50% be other employees, veteran employees who have agreed to respond to questions and queries, Because people who are coming in have lots of questions, all the answers are there, but you need a way to connect it to, and that's what this mechanism does. And then, of course, the issues of diversity and inclusion, see that in a very broad way. How do you bridge differences, whatever the differences might be? This is a tool that can do that as well. All right, so back to the questions for you. How could you use this now that you know a little bit more about it? What's the problem that you see that's maybe not on my list or that we haven't even considered? You'd say, you know what, this would be perfect for that. I'd love to hear that feedback from you. And of course, if you're interested in participating in a pilot, we would like to looking to sign up more groups to do that as well. Right, so, if you want, you can do feedback. You can write me a note. You can send me an email. You can talk to me afterwards if you got some feedback on that. And Rob said, can we put this into practice here today? So what we're going to do is that we have 1 or 2 people who have agreed to make a request to the entire group, and the rest of you have a job of figuring out how you can help that person fulfill that request. The request should be, maybe you can do it in 2 ways. You have the resource, you can share it, or you can connect the person to your network. And the person who makes the request, you got to tell us about, specifically what's the request, why is it meaningful and important to you? What do you actually want to have done, and what's the deadline for it?
Thanks, Wayne. We're going to have a couple people come up, and maybe actually you could just go interview them, Wayne. It might be easier to. Oh, well, maybe come up. Okay, forget about Roger here, trying to help us out. So, Dick, why don't you come up first? Dick Beaton, and actually Jeff and Dick, come on up, and you guys can sit up here. And one of the things that I'm excited about with this app is the opportunity for LeadersConnect to expand beyond a Friday, once a month, to really being a true community and helping each other. So these are a couple of examples of people who have been regular attendees. Come on over. And they both have specific things that they mentioned to me this morning that they're looking for help. So maybe you could interview them, and we could talk about how the app would work. Go ahead.
All right, wonderful. All right, so Dick, can we start with you?
Sure.
All right, so...
I didn't know I was supposed to do this, so I got to think fast.
All right, so I'm going to give you the mic in a moment, but what you want to do is tell the group, reintroduce yourself, and tell the group what's your request. You may remember the SMART criteria, so you have something specific. Tell us why it's important to you, what you actually want to have done, and by when.
Great help.
Might introduce yourself again.
My name is Dick Beaton. I spent my whole career, graduated from Michigan, went out to work for IBM in California, got very involved in the tech startup, venture capital world, started a SaaS platform, if that means anything, before there was SaaS, and we do the websites for every Division I athletic department. So MGoBlue.com sits on our platform, and we did that in 1993, went public, came back to a football game, met a woman, and my roots are really deep here. So how do I get out of Ann Arbor in February and March? No, that wasn't the question. I got very ill. I got staph. I was in the hospital. It was incredible. ICU for 6 months, a flatline 3 times, 16 major surgeries. Everyone I was supposed to die, but I didn't. And so I've been asked to come out for the first time and kind of explain what happened. So I'm having a coming out party. It's not even a party, it's a speech to describe what happened. It's going to be July 12th, and Ann Arbor Public Library is putting it on. Now, my request is, how do I tell people about it? And who would even care? So that would be my request. Is that a decent one?
Yeah, that's definitely a decent one. So so you hit most of the points, right? Obviously why it's really important and meaningful, and you have an incredible moving story to tell and to be an example of. I thought you were going to make the request of how many people here would commit to come to that event. That's even more specific.
Yeah. It's a long story. But one of the companies I started when I came back here tried to solve this problem. We just do it in a different way. It's called Amplifinity. And it's a request for one thing, and that is referrals. So DirecTV uses it. Their customers, they ask their customers to refer friends. They get about 1 million transactions a month through that. And so I typically don't do that direct request, because I would rather have mine be softer, and you and I can go into the different levels, because I've been thinking about this problem for 40 years.
Okay. Well, you know, you're a living example of the issue I talked about before, that the request is the key, and making requests is hard. So I'm going to make the request on your behalf.
Okay.
So the event is July
12th.
July 12th.
Good time?
At the public library. What time?
7 o'clock.
AM or PM?
Yeah.
PM? That makes a difference.
Around Rod, that makes a difference, yeah.
All right, so everyone's got the particulars. So who put that on their calendar to come to that event? See what happens?
Okay, that's great.
All right.
The problem is how do I know who those people are?
Okay, so do you all have business cards? You have your hands up? All right, would you make sure that Dick gets your card before we all leave today? All hands back down again?
Give me your card.
Yes, you do that. And remember, maybe you're going to be on vacation in July. July is a vacation month, right? But you could tell other people about this opportunity. Remember, there's 2 ways that you can help, right? So a lot of hands went up.
I am.
Some hands didn't go up. Who can you tell about this event who would benefit from being there? That's the other way that you can help. Okay. Roger?
And it's at the library, so it's probably going to be videoed. You can watch it later.
What's that?
It's probably going to be videoed if it's
Yeah.
at the library.
Well, that's a specific request I was going to talk to you about. That's a whole different thing.
So, yes, question?
Could we help promote the event?
That was my request. How do I promote this? A lot of my analogies, I'm a little raunchy too sometimes. Not raunchy, but
He's a lot raunchy.
you just don't. It's not bad raunchy. It's just
Funny raunchy, right?
stuff comes out. Usually funny.
So Dick, in order to help promote this, I'd like to know a little bit more about what you're hoping will be the outcome. What is the purpose for doing this event?
Well, it's an inspirational story about hard work, and if I can do it, anybody can do it. We have pictures of me trying to get a spoon from here to here. I was never supposed to walk or talk or anything. It's really, that's the inspiration.
Now, Dick, I don't want to give away the whole story because Dick is also going to come back and speak here in 2017.
But anyway, the request was, how would somebody like me
Well,
market?
request of how though? The request is I want.
Give me some names of some people,
Yeah.
some groups that might market this. Spark has already committed to
One
this.
other question. Do you want to speak other places as well?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, because that's what you told me. You want to create a speaking gig around this. So
Yeah.
you're also looking for other places. So if people have clubs, rotaries, things like that. Yeah. Are you going to be? You want to get paid, or you want to just do this
It's going to be all free,
free? Okay. That makes it easier for people.
but it's going to be geared towards high tech,
Okay.
high growth
All right.
technology,
Okay.
young
So,
stuff.
all right, we're gonna go on, and by the way, I want to thank Dick for launching my son Dan's career. So he got one of his first jobs with Amplifinity, and is now moving on to another company in Chicago. So thank you for that.
Doing well.
Dick was that's the give and get. So that's why he's here today, because he's a giver too. So let's move on. Do you want to interview Jeff?
Okay, Jeff, so it'll be the same thing. If you reintroduce yourself to the group, I'm going to give you the mic in a moment, and tell us what your request is. But remember, specific, tell us why it's important to you and when you need it by.
I'm Jeff with Dexter Builders.
Marvin was talking about a circus. We need to add more clowns to our circus. We're in need of some more employees. We could use a couple skilled carpenters and a couple skilled project managers to manage the carpenters.
Why?
Why? Because the phone's ringing and we need to keep customers happy and respond on a timely basis and crank the jobs out and get them done.
And so, and when by? When do you need them by?
Tomorrow. Generally, there's an interview process, and we got to make sure they got the right skill sets and culture are going to fit into our group. You can't just add anybody to a team. The Tigers could pick up 6 pitchers now, but if they're not the right pitcher, it does no good.
Well, they got to be better than the ones they have now.
And how do people contact you?
DexterBuilders.com is probably the easiest way, or I'd say you can find us in the phone book, but I don't know if anyone uses that anymore.
All right, so I have help. My son is a project engineer. He's presently employed, but he lives in Dexter. I'm seeing him tonight, and I'll give him your name. All right, so Jim can help because his son qualifies to be part of this, so that's why. Anyone else offer help? Wait a minute. Maybe you are a carpenter and you're looking for a job. Any carpenters?
We got one over here.
I'm a project manager. Project manager? All right. Looking for employment?
Yeah. Former Zingerman's employee.
All right. All right. So that's 2 offers of help. Any others? Going once, going twice?
Question. So obviously you would take highly experienced staff. Are you also open to looking for, a 24-year-old who's...
We've started to experiment with that. We started bringing on younger kids and then kind of buddying them up with a more experienced guy and kind of having our own school building. And it's working. That the mentors aren't as good at teaching as they should be or could be. It's just not where they came from, but we're just hoping it'll rub off over time, and it's making progress.
So I have an idea for you, Jeff. You could hire Scott to train your people about how to mentor.
You say in the culture, I've been around a lot of different carpenters.
Right.
Some of their language is pretty...
That's just part of the business, I
Yeah,
think.
that's
it's hard.
I guess
If you have a softball team and a new player comes in and he doesn't quite fit in, we want him to fit in and everybody feel comfortable about who's on their team and they can trust them. They know they got their back and things like that.
I have a cousin that he's in Dexter.
Okay.
He's built a beautiful home.
Yeah.
He's very flavorful.
Yeah, that's a nice way to say it.
Jeff, can I take that back for a second? We're going to
I have one more.
One more request.
Megan and I are both she's in the Chelsea Rotary, I'm in the Dexter Rotary. We have a golf outing June 3rd, if anybody wants to play in it. June 3rd, the first Friday of June.
Same day we have an event here.
Yeah.
Afterward. Come here, have breakfast, and go play golf.
If anybody wants to golf, you can find it on Facebook.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, and I'm going to have one more opportunity, and that is I asked Jackie to come up, except I'm not going to ask Jackie to come up because Jackie has brought a next generation person here, as has Dane. We've got 2 younger folks here, so I'm going to ask your daughter to come up. Jennifer? Is it Jennifer?
Courtney.
Courtney. Well, one of your daughters. Courtney. Come on up, Courtney. Come on. Come on up, Courtney. And Dane, bring your son up. You can bring your daughter up with you, Jackie. We're going to try a little experiment here, have a little fun. So thank you, guys. A little spontaneous. Dick's too raunchy. I'm too spontaneous here. So
I think spontaneous.
yeah, thank you. So I'm going to ask you guys to come up. You're Everest, right?
Yeah.
And how you're in going into what, junior next year in high school?
Senior next year.
Senior, okay. And Courtney is just started working for Plant Moran, so we got second generation here. So first of all, the thing I want you to do is pick 2 names out for the cards. So Diane, do we have the cards that we can pick from? Is Courtney, I think, is anybody younger than, how old are you, 17?
Yeah.
Anybody younger than 17 here? Hans, how, yeah, George is younger. George, come on, yeah, I don't think so, George. All right, so pick a couple cards. Everest, this is a request to get some a free pass. Go ahead. It's not mine. No, keep going. Yep. Go. Okay, go ahead. Go. Okay, you got 2 now. You want to read those?
Yeah.
All right.
H&R Group, Scott Trosson.
Scott, okay, you got a free pass to the movies. Free date tonight, all right. And
Maria Nevi.
Maria, okay, come on up. We can just pick them up afterwards from, let's see. We'll mail it, okay, all right. So now we're going to talk about younger generation, about how they can use this, okay? So, Courtney, I don't know if you're thinking about it, but you're starting a career. You got a request? Okay, we'll give you a few minutes to think here. This is on the spot, but what's your request? You call it request or ask?
So as a new staff person at Plant Moran, I am still working to grow my network in the community. So my request would be for a lunch outing. Anyone that has a good contact for a new CPA in the Ann Arbor community. I'm in the office on and off, but I would love to get out and start meeting new business people.
Okay. So you want to see if does anybody know somebody that might be in the, yeah, okay.
I'd love to be able to meet with you. I represent the Athena organization, which supports and develops women leaders, and an ideal opportunity for you to get to know women in the community who've made enormous impact and be able to spread your network that way.
Thank you so much. That sounds perfect.
Okay. Example. Okay. Go ahead.
Is there anyone else who can help? Roger?
I'll give you a list of names of resources in the community.
Thank you so much.
I have a question for you.
No, I mean, usually
Since you're starting out and most young people can't afford financial services but really need it, would you be willing to do maybe come into my class and talk about starting, at 22, whatever. Where is Dragna here? She just stepped out. Yeah, so Dragna's an example. She's a graduate student, one of my former students. And wouldn't it be nice to have some financial advice and know about Roth IRAs and all that? Don't I impress you that I know that? So would you be willing to do that? Okay, so they may not be able to pay you full fee, but they might be able to get started. And okay, so we'll book a date in the fall of it. Great. Excellent. Okay. Everest, you got anything you're thinking about? Put you on the spot here. All right, go ahead. You're Dane's son, so I'm sure you always got something going on here.
I am actually looking towards the military in a career, and specifically the Navy SEALs. And I was wondering if anyone knew anyone in the Navy or Navy SEALs that I could talk to about it.
We have a friend in Connecticut.
Please stand up, please.
Sorry, we have a friend in Connecticut who's a Navy SEAL and on his Admiral track. He's based in Coronado, and his assignments are rather secret, but I will make that connection for you, and I'll meet you after.
Thank you.
Another hand over here.
Yeah, Venture Capitalist Bo Lasky is a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, here, Kurt.
There's another Navy SEAL, Bo Lasky, I can introduce you to.
Bo Lasky, okay. You see here. And the guy that just left, Demon, is a former Army equivalent of Navy SEAL, whatever they call it in the Army.
Ranger?
Ranger, yeah. So he has a fitness studio here in town, so he connects you that. And then we have a commander who teaches at the university in the entrepreneur program. So I could hook you up with him. He's not here today. He was signed up but didn't come. And Dragna, you have somebody?
Yeah, I have a friend I went to school with in high school, and I just checked the Facebook, and he's in the U.S. Navy, but he's not, I don't know if he's a SEAL, but someone our age that you could talk to.
Okay.
All right, great. So you got 3 or 4 already going on. Yeah. Anybody else? All right. So, Wayne, what do you think? Thank you very much.
Thank you. So thanks to people who are willing to make a request, that is the hard part. And to all of you who were generous in offering the help that you did. So you want to close the loop. So before you leave this morning, you want to make sure that if you offered to help Dick or Everest, whoever, that you connect up and give a business card or a phone number or something before you leave. Because I know from experience, unless you close it right now, close that loop, the chances of it happening start to diminish as time goes by.
So, Wayne, I have a request. My request is that we find a way to use Give and Get app as part of your beta testing with your company. So I'd like to be able to offer opportunities to do this to 1,000 people.
All right, well, I'll accept that. Thank you.
Very good.
That's great.
Get this
Thank you so
picture
much.
here, yes. Give it, oh, you got Jackie. Go ahead. Get the camera.
Take me a minute, hang on.
Wait, I gotta get my glasses. Get some glasses for Wayne here. Somebody have the glasses? There's another pair. Okay, hold on, Wayne. You ready for? Wayne has got some great shots on his website, but none in orange
Marketing
glasses.
magic.
Oh, I like the color too.
All right. Here are closing the deal. Got it? Awesome.
Talk about a shady deal.
Marvin's starting a new career as a comedian on the circuit. So. I do have a couple other things that, just in terms of people. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to make, before I still have the mic, so before I give it back to you, I wanted to say, just want to make a couple observations on what we just did there. You know, that process of requesting, the hard part, and then people generously offering help, which is the easy part. And I bet when you heard some of these requests, I think maybe the one about Navy SEALs, you thought, no way that person's going to get any help. But what happened here happens all the time. I have incredible stories about things, requests that were fulfilled when there were two things. The person made the request and made it in a way that explained why it's meaningful to them, why it's important, and when they need it by, and the request was made in a context in which people were ready to give help. And so what happened here today is routine if you put those two together, the asking or requesting in that context in which people will help.
Before you leave, I have a question.
Yes, just go ahead.
Does it just have to be text? Is there a way to talk, like how we're interacting?
Question, does it just have to be text, or is there some kind of conversation, like a give and get?
Yeah, so we could talk afterwards. It's
Okay.
mainly text, but you can't communicate in the app.
Okay, and you should talk to Dick about, I forgot about this as a resource, but they do this at a corporate level for referrals, so you probably have a lot of information. I want to give you an example of something I requested in my class, which I thought, I'll never get any responses on this, but my father in World War II was on a mission, which I didn't really learn much about from him, and then he died, and I wasn't able to really find out about it, but he was in Egypt, Palestine, Iraq, and Persia. So my request was I want to make that trip just before the Egypt crash the other day. But and I thought, well, you know, so I got 4 people in the class from Iran that offered to take me on a tour of Iran. So I mean, it was just you know, it's amazing when you put it out there, the universe seems to respond, and I think that's a great thing. So Wayne, could you just say maybe? I know you've talked a lot about this, but what are you really excited about with this? What makes you really enthusiastic about this? And you know, what do you kind of see as your grand vision of what could happen with this?
Well, there are 2 parts to that. One is that as a professor at the university, we do research. And so one of my motivations for creating the app was having the ability to collect a lot of data and understand this process and publish research about it. So that was one very key motivation. But then there's a practical motivation as well, is that I've seen with those 35,000 people who have done the Reciprocity Ring around the world and the incredible results. I see technology as a way of really expanding and enlarging the impact of that. So I think if you could imagine if this is done on a larger and larger scale, where people are asking for what they need, generously helping other people, you create that level of cooperation at a larger scale that would have a big positive impact in the world. So it's those 2. It's the research that undergirds this, that we understand it, and then the practical part of it is how do we literally make the world a better place by enabling people to participate in this kind of giving and getting help process.
So are there any people that have ideas about their own situation? Let's say if you run a company, I know there's a lot of executives in here, about how this might be adopted to a company or to an organization that you're part of. Anybody maybe want to brainstorm about whether they should invest in this app? They have some thoughts that maybe it would work. Krishna, you own Batteries Plus. I mean, maybe it might work there. But anybody who's thinking about that, wondering, might this work? Megan, come on up. Megan Torrance, who also has presented here and been in my groups and part of the founder of Torrance Learning. So why don't you talk about your thoughts?
Sure. Most of my clients are in corporate learning and development, and we're starting to look at, instead of just carpet bombing people with training, which everybody really loves to do, is using what's going on in the real world and in their real work lives in order to inform what kinds of training they might be useful for them, or what things they can skip out of, and how we can make that really tailored. So I see the analytics and the data that you have marrying up really, really nicely with what's going on in the learning space to provide a really interesting look at employee engagement and how we can help people perform.
Wonderful. That sounds like a very, very good application of it.
Anybody else see that how it might apply? Marvin, come on up. Scott, come on up. Both of you come up.
So I've worked in some large organizations. One of the questions I had was about incentives. This is what I was looking at and recognizing is in some situations people are very protective of their expertise. It's what they trade in, and they don't really want to give it away. Or people feel that if they're being helpful, they should be paid for it. That a lot of people get tapped for their expertise and feel used rather than rewarded. And I'm actually wondering whether you've looked at that, because I can imagine in some situations people would say, well, you have the analytics here, are you going to pay me more if I'm a massive donor of help? And why should I be doing that in this organization if it's not reflected in any incentive for me to do that? And I can think of certain situations where I've literally heard that from people when you try and promote a certain kind of sharing. And I've seen this particularly in organizations that have changed at times their business model or way in which people get compensated. And I'm just wondering if you've looked at that in relation to this app.
Great comment. Lots of good questions there. Let me address at least a couple of them. One is so somebody who's giving a lot, right? They feel used or sometimes burned out. Research shows that's clearly true. Adam talks about that in his book, saying that people who are giving a lot sometimes can feel used and abused in that process. But Adam also talks about there are two kinds of givers, the ones who perform better than the others. And what I've seen in the Reciprocity Ring is that when we've had discussions about it, is that people will say, I give and give and give and give, and I feel depleted. And then almost before I ask the questions, they come to the realization that they never ask for anything, that they never open themselves up and make requests for anything that they would need, so it would come back to them. So that's one answer. Another answer is that in some contexts, I think it would not work, period, because of the culture. That's something that we're learning. I think it would be more suited in some cultures versus other cultures. And then on the other side is that there are places I know, companies I know, where they do measure and reward that kind of behavior. So probably the best example would be IDEO, the industrial design firm, well-designed firm, the well-known firm, is that 50% of a person's evaluation is how helpful they've been to other peers in the organization. And that feedback is actually provided as part of their performance evaluation system. So yes, so there are people who do it, they do measure it, and they do reward it. Other times where people, it's a person's personal problem that they're not asking for help to come back to them. And then there's some contexts I think it won't work. It could be ones that are just so much distrust and dysfunction that nothing will help.
Before Scott comes up, I have one announcement I want to make, and that is in terms of giving and getting. I just wanted to thank Mandy again for being part of this team here and serving us well. And I asked Mandy if there's anything she'd like to give and get. She said, pay it forward.
I said I'm going to go with my usual pay it forward.
Pay it forward. Okay, so thank you very much. So Mandy's been a great server and part of this community since we started here. So glad to have you back. Scott, come on up. Thank you.
Well, I'll make it quick. I was writing you an email. And,
stand over this way, Scott, so you're not at the...
An email simply says that, well, actually, Rob and I are working with a company, and they've already asked us, particularly how can they connect employees who are embedded in other organizations. And so when you talk about onboarding, that's the issue, is you have these new people, and there's like one person put inside this other organization, and they get a computer from that organization, an email from that organization, but their employer is around the world. And so this might be the way to really connect those new people to the experienced staff. And so that's what my email to you is going to be about. So, thanks.
All right, thanks a lot. I think we're gonna wrap up. There's one other thing that we could do, and this is sometimes we get a few people every time here who are actually looking for opportunities, and so that's a very specific ask. And maybe we can have a few people up that are currently looking for opportunities. But I want to just give you a little bit of we're going to do a little bit of a test here, not just have you come up, but the SMART idea. We're going to say, so you're going to ask for something, but we want to see if you could take what Wayne is saying and make it into a SMART request. So, for example, a non-SMART request was, well, I used to be a carpenter and I'm looking for something, and I can do almost anything you need. Okay, that's not a SMART request. So let's see, does anybody want to come up who is looking for a new opportunity between gigs? George, come on up. Steve, okay. Anybody else want to join? This is a unique opportunity. I'm looking at a couple people who should be saying yes, but they're not. Okay. Joe, come on up. I'm going to call on Joe here. So, and see how well you could do, and specifically asking for what it is you need. And let's keep it brief here because we're almost out of time. So George, we'll go first here. George has written out. That's good. Okay.
Good morning. How's everyone?
Good.
Great. My name is George Williams, and I recently retired, and I started a very small consulting firm. And the consulting work I do is primarily around HR, safety training, interview preparedness, onboarding, offboarding. I currently have one client, and I am currently seeking other clients in need of HR support, specifically leadership training. I have completed a very specific tool that I think will be very effective in rolling out to any organization that is in need of training their leaders. It's called the 10 Seeds of Leadership. So the request is very specific. I need clients. Clients that understand that leadership is the essence of any company, engaging their employees and obviously impacting the bottom line. It's a manageable request. I am seeking clients immediately, actionable, real time, and what's the last one?
When you need it.
Yeah, immediately, basically. So the request is clients that really have a need for leadership training within the organization.
So I asked George, paying clients?
I'm paying clients, but obviously if there's someone that's interested in sitting and reviewing the tool that I have developed, to evaluate it, to understand whether or not it will fit your specific needs, I am willing to sit and do that, and we can talk about pay as we develop a long-lasting relationship. And that's basically what I'm looking for, develop that relationship with clients that's long-lasting and effective.
Okay, very good, thank you. Wayne, does he hit all the requests? You want him on your team? Well, we're not going to respond right now, but we're going to just give everybody a chance.
So if you have a response for George, make sure you connect with him before you leave this morning.
And Wayne's going to select him to be on his team as opposed to Katy Perry, who's going to select Steve here. With a voice, right? That's right.
Hi, I'm Steve Rawlig.
What a voice.
I am actually looking for a new organization that I can help out. I started my career at Zingerman's. In fact, my handwriting is on the walls here. Their font is named after me. And spent many years at Borders. But I am finding, as I'm looking for a new opportunity, that I'm having a hard time finding a company that has the same sort of corporate ideals that Zingerman's did, where I can really dig in and really make a difference, not only to the business and help it move the business forward, but actually play a part and make an impact in the community. So just looking for ideas as far as organizations in town that might fit that bill, that could use somebody that's got some corporate experience, actually with the University of Michigan as well, and has a lot of energy to move somebody forward. So,
All right, when do you get right?
sometime in the next month would be great. Yeah, by end of June.
Thank you, Rob. So I'm Joe Upton. I'm a part owner of Edwards Brothers Malloy, a book printer here in Ann Arbor. I came into that business from the Malloy side. It was my family's business. I helped grow the business. I helped lead us through a merger. I feel that I'm particularly good at helping to set vision, creating alignment, building relationships. And I left employment in the business last year, and I'm seeking an opportunity to help lead another organization to help grow a positive organization to take it to another level.
How specific is that? You want to ask a couple questions? Yeah, just give me a little more details about it.
About what I want. So I've been on the sales side. That's been my direct function. So I'm very familiar with growing business and building relationships. But I also helped run a family business with my father and brother, and I'm very familiar with the decisions that go into running a business. So my goal really is to be the leader of an organization. It could come in on the sales side, but ultimately I'd like to be in charge of a growing business. But it's very important for me, kind of like what Scott was saying, Steve was saying, is that it's the fun. It's an organization that's making a positive impact, not just for its customers and its employees, but for the community at large.
So just a quick question. So you stated the goal, but a goal and a request they're related, but they're different. So is the request for a referral for that kind of position? Is it knowledge of where an opening might be?
Thank you. No. Yes. So what I would ask you is whether it's your organization or you know somebody that I should talk to that you could refer me to. I would really appreciate that opportunity to be able to just to sit down and talk to folks about opportunities that may be a good fit for them and where I could add value.
Thank you. I wanted to thank you very much. And if people want to follow up with them, you guys, George, Steve, Joe, you know where to find them. And then again, for Wayne, your request, why don't you repeat it one more time, and we can move from there.
Yeah, so my request is for feedback, because I had those questions up there at the beginning and the end of my presentation. One is that, how would this work in your workplace? That's one question. Another question is, what would be the problem that it solves? What's the problem that you're trying to address? What do you think are the high-value use cases? So I mentioned a couple of things, and Scott, you connected with the idea of onboarding, but I'm certain that there are other uses out there that we have not thought of that you might say, wow, this is perfect for that. I'd love to have that idea. And if you're interested in participating in a pilot, we started in February. Rob's class is one of the first ones. We've had about a dozen or so running. Some are running still now, but we're continually improving. So if you want to be a part of that process with us, we'd like to talk to you about working with you on that.
And I want to make a request to the group, and that is I'd like those that want to participate in a give and get activity to send me an email about it. And the reason I'm saying that is that if I say to everybody, would you like to participate, how many would raise their hand? Okay, so almost everybody. But if I then send it out, I know I'll get half those people won't respond. I mean, that's just the way it always works. But if I ask for you to send me an email that you want to be part of it, that's much more likelihood that those are the people that really should get going on this. So I'm going to ask you to send me an email saying that you want to be part of the Give and Get pilot and then I will create the group from that rather than just having everybody in the world sign up for it, because it does take effort, and everybody who signed up that isn't going to use it, it's kind of a waste of time. So and it's interesting to me to watch this, that I didn't realize how hard it is for people to ask. I think that's my big learning from this is the ask is difficult, and I think even for myself, I give a lot, but it is hard for me to ask. So I appreciate you pointing that out. So we'll hang around. There's some more food up here. Please feel free. Roger, thank you for video. We're going to put this back out on the internet next week on the YouTube. So look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks with Ari, and then we'll get into our fall schedule. Thank you. Thank you, Ray.
Here is your son. Project Dad. We work together here. Construction and naturally we have a lot of the work